roles he's played have caused me to be scared as a child. You don't have to be afraid to live up with them. In fact, even in this VIP scene, you guys are all VIPs today. It's an intimate group. I was terrified in the early 1987 seeing our guest today in films because I was a young man at the time and was afraid of nuclear holocaust at any moment in the 1980s, I'm sure, like many of us. So Mad Max seemed like a possibility. No, right? It seemed like it these days too. All set? Okay, hey, I want to let you guys know that our guest today, to me again, he left off the screens in this film in 1981 called The Road Warrior, where it was most of our introductions to him, certainly here in America. But shortly thereafter, he got one iconic role after another, starring with some of the biggest players in Hollywood, right? He worked with John Hughes, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Joe Dante, Steven Spielberg in short order, and gratefully he still continues to work today. Please welcome to the stage, Mr. Vernon Wells. Yes, you can have them all even. As long as we can hear you. You want us to write the notes? You can stack them up. I should stack them up so it may be closer to your height, which can be quite intimidating. If you put them all three together, it's like a press conference, you know, where you've got all the mics from the different outlets. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. My ego is that big. I need at least 5 microphones. Hi. Oh, you're all in the VIP seat, huh?
Right. If they're here to see you, they've got to be VIPs.
Oh, is that what it is?
Absolutely.
What's that? Very important.
Oh, I was thinking the D was for Vernon. I couldn't figure out the IP yet. Vernon, important person? Oh, Vernon, you seem like such a sweet and wonderful, kind soul. It's shocking to see some of the roles that you've played, certainly earlier in your career, entirely throughout the 1980s, it seems. Your breakout role, as I mentioned, was in The Road Warrior, where you were, it's probably not too far to say, you were homicidal and psychopathic. How did Mr. George Miller, who directed the film, have any sense that this otherwise, I would imagine, you know, kind-hearted gentleman could play such a maniac? Yeah, you.
George is a different human being from us, I think, at times. George's girlfriend saw me in a stage play. The fact of the matter is I never wanted to be an actor. It was the first thing in my mind. I loved being behind the camera, and I was busy directing commercials. And she saw me in a stage play that I got talked into doing. And I didn't really want to do it, but I did it because it was one of those dumb things. And she saw me and suggested that George come and see me for Road Warrior, which he never actually did. All he did was fly down to Melbourne from Sydney, and we had a cup of coffee and we chatted for about 20 minutes and he left. And I had no idea who he was. He paid for the coffee, so I was happy. And that was basically it, as far as I was concerned with the whole thing. And then about a month after that, my manager rang me and said, you have to fly to Sydney to do a wardrobe fitting for the Road Warrior. And I said, what's a Road Warrior? And he said, it's the movie George Miller's doing. Who's George Miller? He's the guy you had coffee with a month ago. I said, oh, right, yeah, him. And she said, so I assume you've seen the original Mad Max? And I went, no. She went, okay, do yourself a favor, it's playing at the drive-in, go see it. And it was playing, it was a double-header. There was Mad Max and Duel, which was Steven Spielberg's first movie. So I went along to the drive-in. Next morning she rang me and she said, did you go and see it? I said, yeah. I said, what'd you think? I said, Duel was bloody amazing. I said, what about, the other one? Yeah, it was okay. Said, we kind of get a different attitude when you talk to George. He might not be really impressed with that. But actually, George thought it was very funny. He was very nice about it, but I didn't want to do his film. For some reason, I didn't want to do Road Warrior. And when he was talking to me in Sydney, I kept saying, I don't want to do it. And George is a very determined human being. And I would say I do it, he would go, turn around, let me see the back of the costume. Ooh, we're going to have to put something over that. And it's like, I'm not doing the movie. Yeah, I like the mohawk. Maybe we should put some color in it. I'm not doing the movie. Yeah, you know, the top of that's going to be a real problem. The shoulder pads, we'll have to do something with that. So finally I went, all right, fuck it, I'll do your movie. I mean, it was just like impossible. He never once listened to me, not once. He had it in his mind I was doing the movie, and I was talking to him in Japan. I was in Japan for the release of Fury Road, and we were out at dinner, just sitting down quietly. And George and I are friends, so I was chatting to him, and I said, George, seriously, why did you put me in Road Warrior? You had your choice of anybody you wanted. Mad Max was successful in Europe and Asia and everything. Why me? He said, I needed someone who wasn't jaded by the business, someone that if I said jump off that building would go, okay. Instead of going, why? And I said, okay, fine. And he said, also someone big enough that if you were walking down a dark alley on a dark night, you ran into it, you turn around and go the other way really quickly. And I went, that's two. And he said, and the third one was the most important. I said, what was that? And he said, well, what I needed was when you were on screen and women saw you in that costume, they would go, I'd fuck him. And I went, well, you got 2 out of 3, you did pretty good. And I know about the third one, George. But yeah, he had to have that sexuality to it. He said, I had it. So that was where it all started.
You know, thinking about that costume, I forgot, I've got my Wes-inspired superhero type shirt on here. It's like a Batman one was.
Not impressed.
That costume left very little to the imagination, but also, you're talking about stunts and being willing to jump off something. Did you feel any danger having so much skin exposed in the elements or doing these stunts?
I felt a lot of danger in a lot of things, believe me. Most of it was with my reproduction organs. I figured it may never work again. It was, the one thing I figured out very quickly was, I know why women hate those horrible things that go up your butt and they got one little piece on them. God damn. All I did was I spent 6 weeks of putting my finger back. Seriously, it drove me insane.
The chafing.
Yes. It was just, it's actually very funny because on my wall of my office I have a photograph. And a friend of mine went through the film frame by frame in a certain part until he found the frame he was looking for. Then he blew it up and sent it to me. And underneath it, it's got written, it's got, Dear Vernon, I always knew you were a ballsy actor, but did you have to show it?
Now everyone's going to be screaming home for pausing the film.
And it's a picture of me in a position where everything is slid to one side. I mean, it's probably a millimeter of a second that it was on frame with the son of a bitch found it.
I didn't even suspect. He suspected that it was there somewhere.
Well, we figured the costume was so that something had to be showing sooner or later. But it was, I think, the only thing that really bugged me was the shoulders here. They cut my neck all the time, even when they put they had sheepskin on it, and then they had all the feathers on it. It actually started off originally just as football shoulder pads. That was it. And we did a rehearsal, and I was running around doing shit. When I came back, there was blood everywhere. It had cut me so badly around my neck that I was just bleeding everywhere. They went, we can't, got to change. So they came up with sheepskin, which they put around it, and George thought that was just a little bit gay. And so he decided to figure something out, and then they put feathers all over it, which, whichever way you look at it, I either look like a prima donna from a very bad circus act, or it was a brilliant idea. I tend to think it was a brilliant idea. It made the costume really well. amazing. Had that whole thing about it. Very Japanese. I was showing someone today, I have a photograph on my desk, I don't know if I showed it to you guys, where my eyebrows, so you can see how George made my eyebrows go straight up Japanese style. Because he had a notion of me being a samurai. Very much how he presented the whole film was the good and the bad side of that. I always used to think that it was more like Shane. Remember at the end of Shane, the big villain comes into town and Shane comes from the other end when we come to the fortress. That's very Shane, with me standing there looking, Mel on the other side looking, and then that whole battle. It's just, you know, as he said, there's only 5 variations of a theme. So all movies have something of some other movie in them somewhere. So yeah, it was fun.
Was the Japanese thing part of that, sort of that, I don't know if that was like just a red sort of streak right on your chin?
Black.
Oh, black.
But that's okay, I'll forgive you.
Yeah, what you say it's on here. Oh, it's black on here.
Yeah. The red was there. That was the only colour in my whole costume, was the top of my head, which was really cool. I loved it. Just one little touch of colour.
The feathers made it seem more animal, which you already were embodying an animal. So, did you get involved in doing any of the stunts, or? I
did most of them. George would say to the stunt crew, tie him up. I wanted to do everything. I was just, at that time, I was so fit and had been playing football professionally for 8 years, so I was like, let me go, I'll do it. What do you want me to jump off? Ah, that's my trailer. Yeah, I can do that shit. Get a horse beside it, I'll jump on the horse online. George would have a mental breakdown. He was afraid that he would lose me before the film was over. They'd have to write me out or something. But no, there was only 2 stunts in the whole film that I didn't do. Everything else I did, which is fun. Until I got hurt, and then I realized stuntmen have a purpose. Keep idiots like me from breaking things.
The film has that sort of feeling like you are doing all of your stunts. I mean, anything could happen or go wrong. Very much like Fury Road in that way. It seems like a guerrilla shooting almost. You know? Well,
that's the way he directs. I got very close to George and Byron Kennedy, who was the producer, who unfortunately was killed not long after the film was finished in a helicopter accident. I used to fly everywhere with Byron in his helicopter. Him and I got on really well, so I was always in the helicopter. And unfortunately, it was also the thing that killed him. And I'm very fortunate I wasn't in it. But I was always with George when he was in the editing suite for a lot of the time, watching how he put the film together. And what he said was that it was like a roller coaster, that he would have the scene slowly go up to a point, and then it would rush down like a roller coaster, straight down 90 miles an hour. And at the end of that was a brick wall. The roller coaster stops, but your brain doesn't. And I have had conversations with people who will argue with me about the fact that those people got killed smashing into the back of that truck. I go, no, actually they didn't. They didn't hit the truck. Yes, they did. You have to get to a point where you go, did you do the effing film or did I do it? Come on, seriously. But that was the way he was so brilliant. What he did, he could make you believe things were happening. And that's what's so scary. It's just that it's much more dramatic in your mind than actually on screen.
Yeah, I mentioned to you when we spoke before, when you get in the fortress, your character gets in the fortress and headbutts that one guy and that's really rich, there's a flash of light added where watching it, you feel like you're getting headbutted yourself.
Yeah, that was kind of fun, that scene, actually. I enjoyed it. I didn't like the guy I was headbutting. No.
That helps.
Never did that. It's nice. No, but yeah, that was the way he did things. Was all that whole thing, because the scene was. I mean, I pulled him into my head. We still hit each other, not very hard, just to give that whole thing with the boom and everything explodes out. gives you that, yeah, you go, shit.
Yeah.
Yes, very clever man.
So,
Loved him.
moving forward a little bit here, because your role is so iconic, you get cast in Weird Science, and you're not. No, we don't explain who you are. We don't call you Wes. You don't even call it anything. The cast list says you're Lord General.
Mhm.
But your costume is close enough. I'm sure because of trademark issues or something.
Yeah.
But you made such an impression on us as viewers. It was shocking to see suddenly. It was, we have these crossover films now, multi-universe. That was like one of our early examples of pulling a character, and Michael Berryman was,
Yep.
recognizable. How is it that you came to be in Weird Science? It's almost antithetical to Rogue One.
I have no clue.
No.
Just my agents rang me and said, there's a gentleman in America wants you to do a part in a film that's being shot. And I said, uh-huh. And she said, it's kind of a take on the Mad Max. And I said, yeah, tell him fuck him, I don't want to do it. And that was it for me. And it was Joel Silver, who was a pretty powerful, big-time producer. So she rang him back and said he doesn't want to do it. And he said, all right, tell him we'll give him so much money to do it. And she rang me up and said, they just upped the price. I said, I don't give a shit, I want to do it. Rang him back. He doesn't want to do it. So this went on 4 times. And I guess in America, the more you refuse, the more I think you're negotiating. Because I wasn't negotiating, I didn't want to do it. And the 4th time he offered, and she said, no, he won't come. And he said, good, we don't want him anyway. Hang up the phone. And about a month later, he rang back and said, this is our last offer for the thing. And she rang me and said, you're never going to get this much money in Australia. Get your ass on a plane and get to America. And 6 weeks ago, the cast of the film were together at a convention, and we were talking about that, and they all cracked up. We're on the stage, and they just started laughing. What? And they went, every day Joel Silver would come on the set and go, that son of a bitch is straight out, I don't know who he bloody thinks he is, what is he, some fucking superstar? Every day he would come in and yell and scream about me. And they went, it was hysterical. And then you turned up. And I was like, I didn't want to do the film. And it was, and the reason I did it was that I looked up the director. And once I did that, I saw he'd done all these kid, the angst movies of the generation, the 20-something generation. I thought this could be fun. And I was actually glad I did because, as you all know, John passed away. And that was one of the last films he did. So it was really nice to have worked with him.
And that was your first Hollywood film, right?
Yeah.
What was your impression of Hollywood at that point? Was that part of your reluctance or
It was,
to do it?
I was a little boy I grew up on a farm, for God's sake, in the outback of nowhere. And in America, it was just, I was staying at Universal Studios. They called it the Black Tower. It's a big black hotel up on the hill, just outside Universal. And I was staying there. First morning, I come down, have breakfast, get up, walk out the front door. I'm going to go to the set, which is down the hill beneath me. There's this very large African-American gentleman standing and thinks, is it Mr. Wells? I went, yes. He said, I've got your limousine, sir. What? So I've got your limousine, and I'm thinking, I've screwed up. I must be going somewhere a long way away. I said, oh, where are we going? He said, just down to the studio. I want to walk. And he went, oh, no, sir, you can't walk. No, sir, I have to take you in the limo. And I went, but it's good exercise for me. I'd really like to walk down the hill. So we came to this agreement. He drove down the hill beside me, and I jogged down the hill. And then we pulled up, I got in the limo, he drove through the gate, round the corner to the studio, and let me out. At night we reversed it. He picked me up, drove through the gate, I jogged up the hill and drove up beside me. or you'd get fired. You had to have me in that car when I got to the studio. It was just so ridiculous.
They didn't want you to sprain an ankle maybe, or
I
trip and
have
fall.
no idea, but it was just, I was like, okay, this is going to be a weird time. Everything to me was just so out of control. I mean, the set we had was a 2-story house built inside a studio that became a party place, so they could film inside it. The rocket that they had that came up through the house was a real rocket, you know. I just stood there going, seriously? You know, we used a bit of wire and bubble gum and a lot of prayers to make movies, and you got to use all bloody real rockets. So yeah, it was a different thing.
It's something thinking, because Road Warrior at the time had the biggest budget of any Australian film. And even by your stories now, that it still seems like maybe small compared to a comedy that was.
It was actually, I think it was $350,000. It was like, and we were all like, $350,000. Oh, good God, we'll never get it back.
Don't blow it, yeah.
$150 million later.
Yeah, it's fine.
But yeah, it was just so different. I got used to it though.
Yeah, yeah, you see.
Yeah.
Eventually. So yeah, but before that, you're still headed back to Australia, right? Before you get cast in Commando, which is Arnold Schwarzenegger to us by that time was already becoming the big star. He had been in, I think, both Conan films. He hadn't at that time done an action film. That was going to be this film. But are you still in America working and being cast at the time that you get this job?
No. When I was doing Weird Science, Joel Silver said, I'm doing a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I went, who? And he said, Arnold Schwarzenegger, well, Mr. America, Mr. World.
Yeah,
I went, who? And he went, just we'll go see the director and you make a great villain. I went, okay. I couldn't even pronounce his name. I used to go, Arnold Schwarzenegger, what? Anyway, the director went, nope, I don't want him. And I went, I didn't give a shit. It just didn't worry me in the least. My ego wasn't that big. So I went back to Australia and I got a call. It took a long time to find me. I was a busy boy that night and I didn't really want to be disturbed, so I really didn't give a shit. It was Joel Silver reading me from America. I was like, no, tell him I'll read him back tomorrow. I don't think so. So I got on the phone and he said, you know, we've got a ticket for you at the airport. You've got 2 days to get your life in order and get over here. So I actually joined Commando a month after I started filming. The gentleman that they cast, whom I had no clue who it was, it didn't work out for some reason or another. I was told why it didn't work out, but still really was nothing to do with me. So I got cast into the film when I came on. A very funny story about that. I'm not an American, so I don't have that I'm a star thing going on with me. I'm just Vernon from the bush. I'm a happy dude, still am. And first morning I was very tired. I'd flown in the night before, I'd gone into makeup, they'd taken all my hair off, shaved my beard off, the whole bit. Put me in a costume that really didn't fit me, and put me on the set. And the first scene I did in that movie was where I hold the knife to Arnold's throat and he's tied to the table. I say, if I had my way, I would have cut your throat. So I'm just sort of, through the rehearsals, I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to do. Where the lights are, cameras, it's all different for me. I'm trying to sort my brain out. And I would call Joel Silver over, and in a voice that was just a little too loud, said to Joel, this ain't gonna work. He's a big pussy. I need a man. I'm an Australian. Kind of don't say that shit to an Australian. They tend to want to cut your throat for real when you do that. Anyway, we did the scene, and I just went, okay, dude. If I'm a big pussy, let's see how a pussy reacts. And I jumped him. And I went for it. And when the scene was over, Joel Silver walked over to him and he said, so Arnold, do we stop production, recast or something? he just looked at John and he went, "Never give him a real knife." That was the end of it. We became good friends. He just realized that I was a little different to everybody else. So. But yeah, we had a lot of fun. He's like a big kid in the candy store. You'd like to kick his ass, but you'd figure out he'd probably kick yours.
Yeah, yeah, large gentleman. So moving forward again, you know, I want to point out, I just realized this now. You mentioned at the beginning you were a reluctant actor, and now every film, every big film, you didn't want to be in it.
Yeah, I said no to it.
So is it? So when you're offered InnerSpace, then can we assume that you didn't want to do it?
Actually, when I had no clue what InnerSpace was. I was on my way to the airport to fly home because I was going home to shoot Portraits.
Okay.
The film in Australia, the real one.
Yeah.
And so I was in the limo being taken to the airport, and my manager rang and said, "You've got to make a detour to go and talk to these people about Steven Spielberg film."
Had you heard of Steven Spielberg?
Yeah, I figured out who Steven was.
Okay.
And I was like, "Oh, seriously?" But you know, I'm going to the airport to fly home. And I said, "Yeah, well, it's only going to take 10 minutes. Just go do it." And so I was like, "Okay, fine." So I go to the audition, and with Joe Dante, who I've done 3 films with, and I'm in there, and I have no idea why I'm there. And I'm sort of bored shitless. I just want to get in the limo and go to the airport and fly home. And go in, I said to Joel, "Well, what are we doing?" And he said, "Well, we're doing this film. It's called InnerSpace, and this is what it's about." And I said, And he said, "And Steven would like you to audition for the lead." "What do I do?" He said, "Well, that's the part that's different." "Okay, why?" I said, "Well, you don't talk, you wear sunglasses, and you have a bake arm." And I just sat there looking at him going, I went, "Okay, seems like fun, but I've got to go to Australia now, so," and he said, "Yeah, so I just wanted to talk to you. Steven hasn't made up his mind, but that's okay." So I go to stand up, and there was a table with a round thing on the top. And I didn't realize that most tables are not connected to the legs they sit on. So I leaned on it to stand up, and the whole thing came straight up, and I ended up on the floor with this table on top of me. And the director was standing there looking down at me, and Joe, and he went, "Well, I've seen a lot of ways to try and get a film, but this has to be the best."
You're killing yourself.
And then Steven got me to do the film, which was kind of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I got introduced to him on the set one day when he came in. And I did the classic of all people, bumped him, and he turned around and I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh my God, Steven Spielberg. Love, phone, home." Why did I say that? He just looked at me and went, "I'm never hiring you again."
Jewel! Wow, it's coming full circle. Jewel, you told us you love Jewel when you saw it.
Yes, I could have said something nice.
How do you how do you audition for a role where you don't have any lines? I assume it's just on the strength of your.
He just wanted me because he loved Road Warrior. He's a Road Warrior.
Okay.
And he loved it, so he had me. And it was one of those things where I was talking to Steven about it, and I said, "You could have got anybody to do it. I mean, I don't talk, can't see my eyes, and I got a fake arm." He said, "Yeah, but I wanted to see if you could act." So he took everything, because I use my hand. I use my hands a lot when I talk, and I use my voice very much when I talk, and my eyes. So he took all of those things off me to see if I could still do my job. Fortunately, I could, but it could have been a real screw up too. But yeah, that was the fun.
Mr. Igo, I would say, is nearly as terrifying as Wes, with
Yeah, it was fun.
with less of the, I guess,
We had so much fun because Stephen was in England filming Batteries Not Included, which was a film that he did. And so they would send all the dailies to England for him to look at as things went on. And Joe would always do a little scene. It was never going to go in the film just to piss Stephen off. Something we did. And there's a scene that's actually in the film, which wasn't supposed to be, but Stephen liked it. And there's a scene where my boss, the really gorgeous blonde, is laying back on a recliner. She's on the phone to her boss, and she's going, I know, you don't like him, but you have no idea what he can do. He's just the most amazing. And as she's saying this, I come into frame, and my hand is up like that, and you can't see it. It's just slightly out of frame. And she says, he does things to me that you wouldn't. And my hand goes, and all you hear is, and she goes, I think I'll keep you.
I'm a good father, so I introduced my children to 80s films as they grew up. And as they've grown up, my young daughter, I want to show her InnerSpace. I'm like, how am I going to explain that one moment? I don't know. Did you realize in the 1980s, everybody, it seemed like, was a fan of Australia. Certainly in America, we had so many things. Started with The Road Warrior, but the Thornbirds, Olivia Newton-John, Men at Work, In Excess. Were you, as an Australian, are folks in Australia aware of how the love that others, including America, have for your country?
Not until I actually got out and about. But the funny thing about all that is when I came to America to do the film, they actually couldn't hire me. They had to audition Americans for the role as well. So what they did was they put out a casting call for the most ridiculous thing. They made all these points in the casting call that were just near impossible for any human being to have. And then they decided that I was the only one that had them, so they hired me. But apart from that, to work here, I had to have a work permit. Guess who signed for my work permit? Mel Gibson. And I had to be a part of SAG. Guess who signed for my SAG card? Mel Gibson. And everybody hates him. And I'm one of the few people that goes, I have nothing against the guy. He did everything for me. He was just a really cool dude. And so he signed off on all my stuff, so I could work here and so I could work in SAG, which was really cool. But yeah, I found out on a tour. I don't know why I ever talk about my life in these things. We're doing a tour for Commando, and we're flying from Los Angeles to New York, from New York to Chicago, from Chicago back, I think, to Los Angeles. Anyway, we're in the plane flying, and there was this beautiful African-American hostess, and she was in the first class area. Everybody hit on her. I mean, everybody, except me. And she rejected everybody very politely with a beautiful put down. And of course, I just watched all this and thought, I'm not saying a word. I don't want to be crucified. So I was going to the toilet and I'm walking past the kitchen. And as I walked back, she said, excuse me, Mr. Wells. And I said, yeah. She said, can I talk to you for a second? I said, of course. And I walked in, she said, you probably noticed that every time I go out into the first class, I get hit on by everybody, but not you. Are you gay? And I went, no. And she went, and I went, sweetie, I'll watch what you do every time they hit on you. I don't want to be one of them. And she went, here, here's my card, bring me. I come to Los Angeles. We were together for 3 years before she got killed in the crash that was up in Chicago. We were going to get married. So, yeah, I learned what Americans think of Australians through her. But yeah, it was kind of an interesting time. That she was so sweet, and she was always saying to me, I've got to get out of this. These pilots are drunk when they come on the plane. Someday it's going to be a big one. And it was. The only survivor was a little girl, if I remember correctly, who was found wandering down the freeway from the crash. But you know, what is to be, and I can't change it.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. That's not terrible.
It's, yeah, back then it wasn't the best, but yeah.
Well, at some point, because you know you've continued to work for decades now, I think you've decided to be an actor. Can we?
No, I still hate it.
No.
I'm kidding. I actually, the funny thing is, I've always loved directing, but the acting kind of helped me understand what director is. And I now am in partnership with some people. We have a film studio up in Sacramento, and I direct, which is really cool because I go up there and I direct and I act and I do my thing. The acting to me is funny because I was talking to a friend of mine who cast me a lot, and I said to him one day, I said, "Why do you keep casting me?" And he said, "Well, you finally grew up." And the funny thing was, I thought he would be facetious at the time. And then I thought about it, and it was actually, he was right. I'd always been this flighty kid that got everything too soon, too quick. I had no clue what to do with it. I became an alcoholic, I was a junkie, and I tried to kill myself in my Corvette at least 5 times. One of them being after the accident. And every time I was pulled up by something or somebody. And the worst time was I walked into my manager's office, and she had a board on the wall behind her, and it was all divided. There was all the money symbols and things. I actually thought it was one of those things that you guys do for the Super Bowl. You know, where you decide which team's going to win, how much, and all this shit. And I was talking to her, and I said, "So which team do you think will win?" And she said, "What?" I said, "The board behind you, is that for the Super Bowl?" And she said, "No, that's the staff for just deciding when you're going to die." That woke me up.
Did she intend this to be a wake-up call to you by making it so?
Yep.
Wow.
She knew sooner or later I'd see it and ask a question. She'd tell me, and it would either make me smarter or I wouldn't give a shit. And it woke me up, and I just changed virtually overnight, got into the Corvette, got a normal car, and just went on and started acting and doing my job. And that's when everything changed. I started to get a lot more work, and people started to actually like working with me. Before that, I was an asshole. I'm the first one to admit it, I really was. My grandfather always used to say, we have a destiny, we follow that destiny, and if it is a destiny you should have, you will be brought back to it no matter what you do. And that was my case. That every time I went somewhere to do something because I hated what I was doing, I came back. And then I was very fortunate about 30 years ago. I, by accident, met this American Japanese lady who's a Buddhist. We've been married now for 30 years. And that changed everything. Made me totally relaxed. Because I'm Buddhist in my own way, I'd say. I'm probably the worst Buddha ever created. But I follow Buddhism for one reason, that it's not a religion, it's a way of life. It's just how you are, what you do, how you treat people, how you respect everything around you, and that's me. That's how I was brought up on the farm, to respect nature, to respect what we were. And it's just going back to my roots. And it took me a long time, believe me. I was lost in the wilderness, as they say, for quite a while, and a lot of things happened that shaped me and made me realize who I am and how grateful I should be for everything I have. My main thing is that I'm grateful for people like you that like what I do, even you ask, who like what I do and watch it, come to see me, talk to me, and it's what it's all about as far as I'm concerned. I don't have I'm a superstar or a star thing in my body. I really don't. Every time I win an award, I'm the one that goes, why? Because I'm doing my job. I don't see that it doesn't go into my brain and make me go, ooh, yippee. It goes into my brain and makes me go, that's weird. You know, I appreciate it, don't get me wrong. I have 4 statues in my garden to scare off the birds on my head. Because every time they do a whole big thing, they make a bloody model of my head, and they always give it to me for some reason, so I take it and put it in the garden, flowers growing out of them. Two of my statuettes are sitting opening doors. Seriously, I don't know what to do with them. So it's like, I'll hold the door open. But I'm very grateful for what I get, for who I am, and for what I do. And I love and adore being an actor, being a director. It's just, to me, it's, I don't know, it's what I am. As somebody said to me, I wouldn't, believe it or not, I'm coming back here in 2 weeks to film, not this part, Cincinnati. There's a company in Cincinnati that hired me 4 years ago to do a film, and they've hired me for every film they've done since. They just love working with me. And I'm flying back in 2 weeks to Cincinnati to start filming on another film up there. And their films are not me playing murderous clowns. I play a father, a doctor. Well, the last one I was a bit of an asshole. I played an ex-husband who was real shit. In this one, I'm playing a director. So I graduated from being a world-class yoo-hoo to being a granddad, a father, a priest. I just finished doing a movie where I play a defrocked priest who has to get involved in an exorcism with one of his ex-students, which is just the most amazing film. It's a horror film, totally, but it's just such a beautifully done film. I get to play the hero, basically, of the whole thing. So it's come full circle. Don't worry, I still get cast to be the asshole in films. But I also temper that with the fact that I get cast to be a normal person, doing fun things, which is really cool. And then at the end of the day, I get to go home and kick my dog and yell at my wife.
Be yourself. Yeah. Well, Vernon, we are so grateful for all of that you've given us, certainly early in your career and since. So glad that you found your way back to that path and that you're safe, healthy, and still working today. Let's thank Vernon.
I always finish these things because I am Buddhist. I always finish these things in my own way, and that is, seriously, I'm eternally grateful to everybody who likes what I do, period. But it's from my heart to your heart. May everything that you want, everything that you treasure, always be obtainable and be there for you. And may you never want it for anything. Love, kindness, all should be shared and found and developed. And that's my philosophy on life, that I love everybody. I love the world we live in, and I love what we do as human beings here in America. We have a long way to go, by the way, but we're getting there. And that's my thing. Thank you so much. God bless you.